All right, we want to go to this now because there are some stunning new emails that show that the woman who has become the face of this IRS scandal may have been targeting conservative and Tea Party groups after all, even though she said that they were never specifically targeted. The House Ways and Means Committee has released several emails. They've been pouring through so much of this stuff, but now they've let some of it out. These were sent by Lois Lerner, the former director of exempt organizations, to her employees. And look at this email. This is from 2012. Lerner appears to acknowledge that the tax agency's handling of tax-exempt applications has been bungled at the beginning and that fixes have been made. So here's what she says in this for you to determine what she means. It is what it is. Although the original story isn't pretty as we'd like, once we learned that we were off track, we've done what we can to change the process, better educate our staff and move the cases. So we will get dinged, but we took the steps before the dinging to make things better, and we have written procedures. There's more to show you on that in just a moment. Alan Colmes, host of the Alan Colmes Show, and Lars Larson, syndicated radio host. Gentlemen, good to have you here.
Hi.
So we have, this acknowledgement that there were problems in the way these things were handled. But I want to take us back to see Mr. Schulman's testimony of the IRS. Also, when he was asked sort of before this whole thing blew up, whether or not there was anything to this theory.
Can you give us assurances that the IRS is not targeting particular groups based on political leanings?
First, let me start by saying yes, I can give you assurances. As you know, we pride ourselves on being a non-political, nonpartisan organization. And so what's been happening has been the normal back and forth that happens with the IRS. There's absolutely no targeting. This is the kind of back and forth that happens when people apply for 501c4 status.
So that might have been a moment, that opportunity, really, that was there to start to kind of air this process out and figure out what had gone wrong. It did not happen, as you can see there. So, Alan, let me go to you first. When you go through all of these and you look at some of the other things that Lois Lerner said, does it not raise questions in your mind that this was an effort to keep these groups silent?
It doesn't read that way to me, other than the fact that they looked at...
Go ahead,
I'm sorry,
Alan.
am I making you laugh, Lars? I'm glad to be a comedian.
Yes.
If I can just finish my sentence without snarky reactions. The fact of the matter is that they were looking at liberal groups and conservative groups, and this has been denied, it seems, by conservatives. They use the word progressive, they use the word emerge. They went after groups. 3 emerge groups were in fact denied 501(c) status, and conservatives try to make this a cause, and Congress continues to still do this and ignore doing the work of the American people. They're trying still to overturn Obamacare. I mean, when are they going to cut this out? This is a phony scandal.
Let's take a look at another one of the quotes from these emails, because then people at home can decide what they think about it. She says, the Tea Party matter is very dangerous. Cincy, meaning the Cincinnati office that we've since heard so much about, where these tax-exempt applications were held up in many cases, should probably not have these cases, she went on to say. Lars, the problem here is that we've heard from these Tea Party groups, and we know the kind of rigmarole that they were put through, the ridiculous questions that they were asked, who do you pray for, all of those kinds of things, which are just, they're bizarre, the things that they were questioned and what kind of holdups they had. We haven't heard that kind of story on the other side of the fence in terms of how they were treated, and that's what raised the big issue here. What did we learn in these emails, Lars?
Listen, the emails show very clearly that the IRS was aware that it was going to be dinged, as Ms. Lerner said, for doing exactly what Alan seems to want to deny they did. They went after Tea Party and conservative groups. They held up their tax-exempt status, which effectively held up free speech in a political year, an election year, and that benefited the president and his allies and Democrats in general. It hurt conservative voices, and using the IRS to target people for political reasons is something that, by the way, Alan, was in the original articles of impeachment against Nixon. You can't use the IRS or the mechanisms of government to target people politically. And you seem to want to do just what the president does. I'm glad you have that stand-up comic.
Let me ask you this, because I don't want to sort of retread a lot of the ground that has been tread in this.
I understand.
But when you take a look at, the president said that he was appalled by this as well. And I think we can all agree the IRS can never be used as an arm to quiet the voices of people who want to have a say. But after Citizens United, there were questions about whether or not groups that were seeking to have political sway and when they were political organizations should receive tax-exempt status. That was the big issue here. So the president said he wanted to investigate this, Alan, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it. So far as we know, I mean, Lois Lerner's, I think, still getting paid, but she's not doing her job. This whole thing seems to be stuck dead in the water. And I think a lot of folks say, here we go again, right? We were going to get an answer and nothing.
My concern is that we're not getting both sides of the story. The only reason we found out that they were looking at progressive groups is because of Elijah Cummings, a ranking member on the Oversight Committee. After Darrell Issa refused to release all information, it was only because of the Democrat ranking member that we found out they were looking at all groups, not just targeting conservative groups. And conservatives like Lars refused to acknowledge that that was the case.
Yeah, but so what is my answer,
No,
Alan?
but there's a
so
difference
what? You know what?
there,
If they were targeting liberal groups, don't you want to know about that
Absolutely,
too?
absolutely.
So where's
but the point
the investigation?
is,
Where are the answers? Where's the investigation?
You're not hearing me. In that, what I'm saying is, excuse me, please. You're not hearing me. What I'm saying is, it's wrong to do it to any group. But conservatives are playing victims here as if they were the only ones targeted, which is not the case. It's wrong no matter who you're targeting for any political reason.
Alan, listen. The fact that you call it a phony scandal is part of the problem. The fact that the president calls it a phony scandal. Here's what happened. Of course, they looked at all of these groups. That's what the IRS job is to do, is to vet the group and then fairly quickly, usually within 90 days, either give them status or not. The president's half-brother got status in 30 days thanks to Lois Lerner. Now, why do you suppose he got fast action and conservative groups were held up as long as 27 months?
They've held up.
The question wasn't whether they were looked at. The question was, were they held up for many, many months during an election year?
And my point is that groups of both persuasions, left and right, emerged groups with the words emergent in it were stopped.
Then
they were
why do you
highlighted.
call it
They were
phony?
stopped. And because you're playing the victim here, like only conservatives are being victimized here. I've been very clear.
You can't have it both ways, Alan. You can't say both groups were victimized when we've heard precious little from groups on the left that were victimized, and then say, you know, it's a scandal. Everybody was hurt in this whole deal, and then say it's not a scandal.
You have heard
it doesn't make any
precious
sense.
little from groups on the left because the Republicans on the committee have tried to hold back that information.
The groups
and
on the left
Issa
can
was
talk
not being
publicly
honest
as well
with
as
what
the
he
Tea
came
Party.
forward with.
If that is the case, Alan, I hope bring us.
Elijah Cummings is the one who revealed it, the
right,
Democratic ranking member.
All right, so when we see all those disgruntled groups, progressive groups that have been held up, I think we should give them an absolute equal time.
Let's put Emerge on.
I have no problem with
Emerge
that.
has been held up. Put him on.
All right.
Well, how about having them just go out and speak publicly the way you're allowed to do under the First Amendment of the Constitution?
They even went after
Alan.
Acorn, a group that doesn't even exist anymore.
Emerge. Let's find them.
Under
Alan,
a different
thank
name.
you. Lars, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do more on
You
that.
bet.